Hey everybody, it's Garrett's Games coming at you with another game from SN 2024. This time we are looking at SteamPower from Martin Wallace and Wallace Designs for 1 to 5 players, plays in 60 minutes or less, and it says 14 plus on the box. Martin Wallace is probably best known for Age of Steam and Steam, those games, and that's a much more complex rule set. This is much more streamlined, and we'll talk about our like for the game and what's going on here as we lower the camera and let you see what this board is all about for SteamPower. Before we get to that though, remember, thumbs up, subscribe. We have our audio podcast, which is at garrettsgames.com. And of course, you can support the podcast by going to patreon.com/garrettsgames. All right, time for some SteamPower. So in SteamPower, you will have 2 different maps. This is our Steel Belt map for the set in the United States. It says at the bottom that's just out of frame for 2 to 5 players. The other one in the box is the Germany map, which is for 3 to 5 players. And instead of being on cardboard, this is on a towel here, or like silk screen towel here. It is actually really smart because if they come up with expansions, hey, you could send one of these out pretty cheap, pretty nice.
That would be great. We're hoping for some expansion.
Definitely. You have a bunch of cities here on the map, and we have already pre-seeded the map and set it up this way. You draw out of a bag here all of the cities one at a time, placing them out randomly, so it really does change up the map from game to game with the different types of cities in different places. You'll notice that there are 4 different colors of factory cities, the black, the orange, the gray, and the white here on the map, and victory point cities that score when you get your network into those places. All right, so there are 5 different possible actions on a turn, and you are going to do 2 of those. And you start with a bunch of locomotives, as well as little houses that are factories, all right? You also start with $5, and you start with a bunch of contracts. And contracts are the ultimate game timer because depending upon the number of players, there are 14 finished contracts will end the game in a 2-player game, whereas as few as 8 in a 5-player game. As soon as somebody triggers that, they do that many contracts, then you finish out the round and that will end the game. On a turn, as I said, there are 5 different actions that you can do. You can, just easy action, take $3 from the bank. All right, that would be one thing.
We never did that in a 2-player.
We never did that in a 2-player.
We think in a multiple player.
We'll tell you why in a minute. Yeah, exactly. You can take 2 new contracts into your hand. All right, so those are easy things that you can deal with. You can fulfill a contract. We'll talk about that in a minute. You can build a factory, and you can lay track. So there's a bunch of different track tiles, the straights and curves, and then special ones that have overlaps and really sharp bends and so on that you can build. Building track is the primary thing, of course, and building factories are the 2 primary things that you're going to do besides, of course, that important thing for points, which is fulfilling those contracts. So you are going to start by doing, as I said, 2 actions per turn, and you can do those 5 actions that I just listed. You could do the same one twice, or you could mix and match as you go forward. When you build track, you're building 1 or 2 pieces of track. All right.
We always do 2.
You need to start from a city, and then you need to continue your network once you have started that. So, for example, completely out on the board, say I were the first player here, I would come in and maybe I build this one, okay, connecting those 2 and putting some to claim that, and maybe I'm like, oh, I want to make sure that I get into this point city here, and I get that, and I claim that with my locomotive as well. That would be 1 turn, or 1 action, I should say. Right? One of my 2 actions. And maybe, since I've got factories here, maybe I want to build a factory. So say I'm looking at my cards, and I don't know about Shelley, but I'll tell her my secret. I always count up the number of the particular colors. So on my initial setup, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 black, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red. So of the 2 that I've got, I definitely know I'm going to need a lot of black. So I'm going to come in here and place this so that I can have a factory that develops the black resource.
Thank you for telling me your secret.
That was
Maybe
my
that's
secret.
why you always win.
Ah, yeah. In a 2-player game, whenever you build a factory, you're going to put 4 of that particular city's resource on there. In a 3 to 5-player game, you're putting 5 of that resource. That resource is now available to anyone connected to that particular city, regardless of how the network works. So for
maybe
example,
I put some pieces out here.
yeah, Shelley's going to build out here.
Yeah, I put some pieces out here, and I want to connect up because I want to get some of these points too. So maybe
There
I
she's
do
going to
that.
get that victory.
And then I have this extra piece, and I'll just play it here for now. No, I'll play it straight.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so she's going to put her locomotive
Here,
on there.
and I've started this one.
And started that one. So
which I can continue for my next action if I want to come on over here.
When she builds, she's going to need to make sure she finishes this incomplete track.
When I decide to build a track again,
Yes,
I must
exactly.
do that. Maybe I'm doing that as my full action.
Say-
I decide to put in
Say she then puts in a factory right here on this one. And I'm like, okay. All right, so now at one of my turns, I'm looking at mine and I'm like, oh, you know what? Well, maybe I'm going to do a contract as my first action. And say I do this contract, okay? Probably the better choice. I can take the black resources for free, so I'm going to need to take 2 of the black resources.
Up to it.
Okay, and this one, now it's Shelley's factory, even though I can transport it easily. And so I can take this, and I would have to pay, can make change, $1 to Shelley for taking this orange resource to fulfill this contract. These go to the supply, and now I'm going to get $2. So even though I paid Shelley $1, I'm going to get $2.
Yeah.
I'm going to have 2 victory points at the end, and all of the smaller contracts, the ones that are 2s and 3s. I have all 2s in my hand. Say I had this one. Okay, these all give you an action down here at the bottom. This one allows me to now, as I'm still finishing my first action in the turn, I did the contract, I also get to build 2 tracks. So say I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to continue my thing up here, and I'm going to, let's see, maybe I'm going to,
here if you wanted.
Yeah, or maybe I'm like, you know what, I want to make sure that I get to that other victory point out there. I'm going to put my trains on there, exactly. And so that's my first action in the turn, and maybe my second action is, you know what, I've got some white in my hand, so I am going to make sure that there are white resources on the board as well. Now, say, Shelley, do you have a black and
I have a black.
Yeah, this is perfect.
Well, that's perfect because we can use the gray example too.
Say Shelley, on her turn, she decides to do this. Not the best choice, I'm going to say, and she wouldn't do this regularly, but she certainly has a free orange or red that she can do. To take this black, she must take one if it's available and she's connected to the network. She has to take this one, and it's going to cost her 2 because she has to go across a segment that I own. So this is going to cost her 2 to me. And if there isn't a particular resource on the board, you can always buy it for 5 from the bank. So she could spend her 5 there and get a gray resource from the resources. These all go back to resources. And now she gets to do the same thing. She gets $2, so she gets 2 of the $7 that she spent, gets 2 victory points at the end, and then also gets to build her
And
track.
I have to do that immediately. So I'd probably build out here to connect that up and continue.
Figure out something out. Yeah, exactly. Now, so that's the way. Now, another one would be fulfilling this. You're going to get 3 victory points. You get $3, and you get to put a factory out if there's one that's not already taken by somebody. But notice that
it's connected. Something's connected.
Exactly. You have to. It has to be connected to the network. And I should say, if, for example, this were out here, and Shelley's done that, I can actually, even though my network is not connected to it, I could actually build this factory. It's just going to cost me to get those cubes from my factory, but Shelley could use them, but she'd have to pay me. All right? But here we are. let's say this is the setup. Say Shelley does this as her turn. She gets to, if she turns in all of these resources, she can then build this factory here. But because it's a white factory, and she is going to, normally you do 4, but you could choose to do only 3, or she could say, you know what, I have a lot of white that I'm going to need. So she could do 5 instead and put all of those out. Say she chooses 3. Why would she choose 3? Why would she put fewer resources like that? Well, as soon as somebody has used all of the resources from a factory, it turns over, and now at the end of the game, that is worth points. It is worth a base value of 2, but say I've got this, say Shelley did this one too at the end of the game, okay? So from here, as we would go around and do scoring, this one's worth 2, but any of the cities that didn't all get on the board, so 3 of them over here did not find their way into the cities on the board, those are going to be worth an extra point, or maybe even, depending upon how many are left over, a point per that color. So this one is worth 2 because all of the whites are on the board. There's not one over here. But this orange one is worth 3 at the end of the game rather than 2 for Shelley if it gets emptied. Okay? So game goes through. You're doing 2 actions, building 2 tracks, doing a contract, building factories that are connected to the area. And then as soon as someone in a 2-player game hits 14 contracts built, you finish out, or 14 contracts fulfilled, I should say, you finish out the round that round, and that is the end of the game. You are going to then add up all of the contracts that you have done. You are then also going to go through and look at all of those factories that were completely emptied, get points from that. You will score the victory point cities, and that is a baseline of 4, possibly 5 or more if there are victory point cities that are left off. But you divide by the number of different networks that have made it into that city. So in this case, Shelley's the only one in this one, so she's going to get 4, and I'm the only one in this one, so I'm going to get 4. But if I, for example, had been able to, let's say I did this, I don't know why I would do this, it's a little bit crazy, but I could, if I were to build all that, turn that one too. Okay, if I did that little crazy build,
which you probably would want to do.
Well, I might want to do, or go out and get to that.
Maybe come here first and then do that.
Exactly. Now, this is worth 2 points to each of us, 4 divided by 2 different networks into there. So Shelley just went from 4 points to my 0 to both of us having 2 points. So that's why it might be worthwhile.
But in a 5-player game.
In a 5-player game, if everybody gets into a victory point city.
Which would be very hard to do, actually.
Yeah, because there are only 6 sides to each tile, right? Then that nobody gets the points.
Ouch.
0 points. Money, every 5 is a victory point, so that's why, that spending for the cubes could be good, but it could be very painful. And that really is the end of the game.
That's right.
So what'd you think of this one?
Well, I love this game a lot. I think it is incredible. It's so much fun to play. It's so straightforward.
I know.
But the think is pretty big. It's such a fast game.
It is a really fast game.
I mean, we played this in 45 minutes.
Yes.
And we were told
that by 5 players at Spiel, everybody, a brand new player, 45 minutes as well.
So this is a really great think, but so fast, and you could be a beginner gamer and you would get this?
I think so. I mean, I think it's certainly a step up from some of the games that we've talked about here on the podcast.
In terms of difficulty. In terms of
difficulty, yeah. Because there are some choices and a lot of decision making that is going on here.
But
it's
choices
straightforward.
Are simple.
Exactly.
You
it's
either
straightforward.
build track, you make you fulfill a contract, or you put in a factory. Boom, those are it.
Yeah.
And it's just.
We really, really liked this game.
Yeah. It's
solid stuff.
Solid
Definitely.
game. And
Shelley even talks about, possibly KDJ.
Yeah, I really do think that it should be up for, and I've never made a prediction before or anything, so what do I know? But it should definitely be Kinderspiel des Jahres.
It really is kind of that weight, maybe, at the upper end of that, and it's really solid.
In my opinion, if you put this in front of somebody who you thought yeah, we've never played games before with them, but let's try it. If they had gamers inside them, but they didn't know, they would become gamers after this game because it's that good. It really is. It's such a middleweight game that is so fun, and everybody feels they're in it because you can buy from other people what you don't have yourself. It's not cheating. You give them the money.
Yep, exactly.
And
if it's on the board, they can get it.
Yeah, if they're connected up to it, they can get it.
Exactly.
So, and you're going to be connecting up because the board is tight.
So, SteamPower.
SteamPower, awesome stuff.
Awesome stuff from Martin Wallace and Wallace Designs. Really great stuff. Definitely check this one out. Worth your time.
Yeah.
All right, that'll do it for this time. Remember, you can head down to the show notes and check out our extensive list of games that aren't fitting on our shelves anymore but belong on your table. You can sponsor us at patreon.com/GarrettsGames. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and until next time, listen to the audio podcast and take care of yourselves. See you later. Bye.